Welcome to another installment of Leading Ladies of the Word. In this video, we're going to take a quick look at a fifth leading lady from the New Testament. And our lady that we're considering in this video is Lydia. And Lydia's story is told in the book of Acts. And this is just a depiction of Lydia at the river and her meeting with Paul. In Acts chapter 16, verse 14, it says, "One of those listening was a woman named Lydia, a dealer in purple cloth from the city of Thyatira, who was a worshiper of God. The Lord opened her heart to respond to Paul's message." So Paul had gone out to the river to pray, and he encountered a number of women there at the river who were partaking in religious devotion as well. And so Paul preached to them and shared with them, and Lydia opened her heart and became a believer in Jesus Christ. Now, one of the interesting things that we learn about Lydia is that she's a dealer in purple cloth. That usually meant that this was somebody who was an independent businesswoman, so she would have had some leadership skills, certainly, to be a businesswoman. And she was probably pretty wealthy, because dealing in purple cloth in those days was more of a upper class market. And so she was probably a wealthy, independent businesswoman, but she also had interest in being right with God. She was a worshiper of God, though she did not know about the gospel of Jesus Christ yet at this point. But she was open to it, and the Lord opened her heart to respond to Paul's message. It also says in the next verse that when she and the members of her household were baptized, since she is the one being spoken of here, she was probably the leader of her household, and so her household was baptized kind of under the rubric of her authority in the household. She was saying, this is a decision that we are making as a household. We are going to start following Jesus. And her household submitted to her leadership, and so they were baptized. And she also invited Paul and Luke and perhaps others into her home. She says, "If you consider me a believer in the Lord, come and stay at my house." And she persuaded us. So she was able to persuade Paul to come to her home and to meet with them and to be with them. Later on in the passage, it says, after Paul and Silas came out of the prison, where they had been temporarily placed, they went to Lydia's house, where they met with the brothers and encouraged them. So it seems to me that Lydia was not only an independent leader that was female, but that she was now a strong believer, and that she had basically turned her house into a church, a place for the church to assemble. And there's good evidence, I think, that the host of house churches had some degree of authority or leadership. It's just common sense that they would have some degree of authority or leadership in the life of the church. And so it's probably safe to assume that Lydia was among the leaders of the early church in Philippi. This on top of the fact that Lydia was the first European convert that we know about in Scripture by name. And so this is a significant role for her. But I really can't imagine a scenario where she doesn't have some leadership role in the church in Philippi, given this backstory. And the fact that Luke names her in his writings tells me that she was a well-known person in the early church, at least in that part of the world. So that's what we can learn about Lydia, this dealer in purple cloth who became a host of the early church in Philippi, and was probably I think a supporter of Paul's. Remember, in Paul's letter to the Philippians, he mentions how gracious they had been in support of his ministry, financial support at least. And I would speculate that Lydia was a huge part of that, since she was probably a wealthy businesswoman and the host of at least one of the local churches there. So that is what I wanted to share about Lydia, and hopefully you'll keep watching, and you can watch the next three women that are leading ladies of the Word in the New Testament.